This episode of the Flush Podcast is brought to you by North Dakota Tourism, Federal Premium Ammunition, Onyx Hunt, Chief Upland, Huron, South Dakota, and by Greenbelt Premium Beer. Today we're taking you on an extreme bird hunting adventure through the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. My guest is Dylan Waller, a bird hunter that excels at hunting in high elevations. We just spent last week chasing ptarmigan and dusky grouse on some of the highest mountain peaks in Colorado, and Mother Nature kicked our butt. We'll tell you all about our mayhem in the mountains.
The Flush. So fast, it hardly seems real. So vivid, the moment freezes in time before erupting in a blur of spurs and feathers. It's why we changed the way upland loads are built with Prairie Storm. Exclusive flight control flex wad technology and a mix of copper-plated lead and flight stopper pellets combine to create dense, deadly shot strings through any choke. Longer shots, more power, fewer missed birds. Only from Federal.
If you're looking for a great bird hunting destination this season, then I strongly recommend that you consider one of my favorite places to hunt. That's North Dakota. North Dakota is a bird hunter's paradise. You can hunt waterfowl and upland birds all in the same day. Ducks and geese in the morning, pheasants, sharp-tailed grouse, and Hungarian partridge in the afternoon, or vice versa. North Dakota has a population estimate of 2.9 million breeding ducks, which is 19% above the long-term average, and their prairie pothole region is smack dab in the middle of the Central Flyway. This year's drought has had an impact on North Dakota's landscape and their bird populations, but there are still regions in the state that have seen an increase in bird numbers this season. Yep, you heard that right. With a little scouting, you might just find yourself in a field surrounded by wild flushing birds, creating memories that will last you a lifetime. North Dakota has approximately 800,000 acres of private land open to public walk-in hunting. For the latest plots guide, visit the North Dakota Game and Fish Department. Bag your limit this fall in North Dakota. Visit legendarynd.com to start planning your hunting adventure today.
The wild is calling. Answer your thirst for adventure with Greenbelt Premium Beer. Bring the Greenbelt to the outdoors with their limited edition premium hunting season pack. It's available anywhere you can find premium 12-pack cans of Greenbelt.
Welcome to another episode of the Flush Podcast. I'm Travis Frank. I'm your host. Brandon Morton once again brings you this production. Thank you, Brandon. And at the same time, I am sorry because you sent me on the road with equipment that worked just fine when I left, and for some reason, stopped working halfway through our show in Colorado this week. Can you fix it? Will you be able to fix it?
I will assess the damage as soon as I see it, but I don't know. Outlook's not looking great on this one.
Yeah, well, I apologize to you, so I also apologize to everybody else that waited for a podcast to come out last week, and it didn't. I am sorry. We did try to record a show in the mountains, but like I said, it just wasn't meant to be. And that's kind of foreshadowing for this entire podcast because it's not all lost because I still have Dylan Waller, and Dylan kept us alive all week. That was the motto of our hunt. I don't know. Dylan, how many times do you think I told you thank you for keeping me alive?
I lost track of the number of times that you said that, I think.
Have you ever hunted with somebody that hated heights as much as I do?
No, I don't think I have. Those high mountain, those old mining roads really seem to get to you a little bit.
I know, and I can't explain it because I wanted to man up, and I think we talked about it afterwards that part of me was happy that I did it because I could say that I overcame some of those fears, but I don't get to control them. When I get up there and there's a ledge that drops 500 feet, 1,000 feet, and I just tense up. My body just literally tenses up in a way that I cannot explain. I don't choose it, but it just happens. And unfortunately, if you want to hunt for ptarmigan, you got to man up and you have to accept some of those heights. But have you recovered? Are you ready for more?
I am recovered. I'm actually taking a rare day of rest today. I was supposed to be moose hunting with my friend Steve, but his grandson that lives with him was sick, so I had the day off and was able to chit chat with you. The dogs are giving me a hairy eyeball though, because we normally take off hunting on Mondays. So
Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you giving us a few minutes of time. And then, last week we filmed a television show for The Flush, and I don't want to necessarily go through step by step the entire week. We're gonna show the reality of what it looks like to hunt for ptarmigan up in the mountains. But I want to talk about it today because there's a lot of season left. There's a lot of opportunity available for other hunters, and you hunt for a variety of upland birds. You don't just hunt for ptarmigan. Last week we got out there and we hunted the San Juan Mountains, and our main objective was to find ptarmigan. And how long have you been hunting for this bird?
I've been hunting ptarmigan probably 12 or 13 years in Colorado, if I had to guess. I really enjoy them. They live very high in the mountains, above tree line, so 11,500 or 12 to 14,000 foot normally. So it's a beautiful, beautiful area to hunt. It can be harsh and difficult, as you saw last week, for sure sometimes.
Yeah, and I feel like you and our friend Jim Lincifer, Jim joined us as well, and Jim has probably got 20, I think he said close to 25 years that he's been hunting for these birds. And our optimism going into the hunt was really high just because of all the success that you two have had. But the reality, it didn't play out the way that we had envisioned, mostly because of the weather. How would you describe, I'm sure you've talked to some people since we left the mountains, but how would you describe our adventure?
It was definitely, the weather was 90% of the issues that we had were related to that. And I get a lot of people that contact me about hunting white-tailed ptarmigan here in the lower 48. Colorado's, probably has 95% of the places that you can hunt those. And a lot of people ask me, what's the best time of season to come down and hunt them? And I jokingly, but not jokingly, always tell people the last day before the first snowstorm of the year. And it's true because I hunt them in their summering areas, where they live in this short alpine tundra, and they feed on these very small green leafy plants that are only about a half-inch tall. And as the snow melt from the previous winter melts out over the summer, it really narrows down. Most of the tundra dries out. It's dry, crispy. There's not much bugs left, not much greens. And so the birds get condensed into these small areas that are moist, maybe have a seep or a small lake or something. So it kind of allows a person to really concentrate on small areas because there's a lot of ground up there to cover. And but then when the first snow flies, all that kind of goes to the wind because the birds make a winter to summer migration from their summering areas to their wintering areas. And we had the very unfortunate luck of the very first snowstorm of the year in the high country being the day before our hunt started. And we were all set to hunt them in their summering areas. And I still went in pretty confident that first
to be exact, you went in with 100%. I remember asking you, but when we finally parked the truck, how confident are you today? And you said what?
100% that we would see birds. That's what I'm a confident guy. I thought for sure we would get into birds, and everybody gave me a hard time about jinxing the hunt. I think every day after that.
Jim and I both looked at it. Yes.
Jim
and I. Yeah, he and I looked at each other and we said, we better get the hell off of this mountain because you just cursed us.
It's hope we should have just went home after that, right? It's like, right. I really didn't think that first snowstorm. I knew it wasn't good. I knew we were hunting in the summering areas, but they're an alpine bird. They live above tree line year round. I really didn't think that first snowstorm that stuck would have that big of an effect, and I was wrong. That valley I know was full of birds just the week before, and the snow completely blew them out. So that was a tough break. That was a tough break for sure on our day one.
Well, it didn't completely because we were able to locate some birds. Unfortunately, a fox got in there and located them before we were able to find them. And the only reason we know that is because obviously the fresh snow on the ground and the tracks, and we could see where the covey was and where the covey was no longer. But I think one of the, like when we hunt pheasants or you hunt quail, I mean, there's the first snow is something you just jump up and down for because you're like, oh, let's go. They're going to be dumb birds. But clearly that's not the case.
I live for. I mean, almost every species I hunt, besides ptarmigan, I wait for the snow. I mean, I think that almost every hunt I do is better, from dusky grouse to pheasant. I like a little snow on the ground. It just lets you see tracks. It's quieter. It lets you see better. It's better scenting conditions for the dogs. And the same is probably true for ptarmigan if it didn't disrupt their pattern, and if the country wasn't so incredibly difficult to get around in when you have a wet, slick snow on the ground, both the roads being treacherous as well as just, trying to walk on those steep slopes when they're wet, and have a light little bit of wet snow on them. It's just treacherous and you can't cover very much ground. And of course, there's a lot of ground to cover up there. So it's not so much that I think the birds are hard to hunt in the snow. It's just that getting there and covering ground is very, very difficult when it's snow. So I typically actually quit hunting ptarmigan once we get the first snow that sticks above tree line. And that's kind of what we were stuck with that week.
Well, I was a little bit surprised when I asked, how many people hunt ptarmigan in this state? And your response almost kind of floored me. What do you estimate the total number of hunters that chase that bird?
I would say probably close to 100.
That's it.
Yeah, I'm pretty involved in the upland bird hunting world here, and I've known I've seen 3 or 4 people that have harvested any this year, and so I've and I'm sure there's a lot of folks that aren't on social media or involved in the upland world here that hunt them, I'm sure, but I'd still say I'd be surprised if there was more than 100 or 200 people that even pursue them here. They're just very difficult country to get into, and harsh conditions, and there's easier birds to go chase.
Well, I think it's kind of a trophy, right? I mean, it's not a bird that how often do you hunt them?
I'll go up on my own maybe 2 or 3 times a year. And then it's also a very popular bird for people that I know from other states or that want to come in. Oftentimes they want to go hunt ptarmigan. So sometimes I'll do it more often if someone comes in, and I'll take them on a ptarmigan hunt like I did when you came down. But on my own, just a couple of times, and then maybe a couple of more times when other people come down. So, maybe 4 or 5 times a season.
When we started to run into some of the challenges about the birds, I think one thing that for Jim and myself, and probably it seemed like for you as well, is just there's just so little information about this bird out there because so few people hunt for them. So it's not like, hey, do they go up in elevation? Do they drop down when the snow falls? There's just not a lot of information out there, right?
There's very little information out there. When I first decided to chase them, 12 years ago or so, I tried to do some research because to find out, how to hunt them. And for in the lower 48, at least, I couldn't find anything. The best I could do was dig up some old biological journals and read about their habitats and behaviors. It was written by, some PhD students who were working on wildlife biology degrees. And that was the only information I could find. And that's what I used when I first started hunting them. I couldn't even find anybody else that hunted them when I first started doing it. So that was a little bit of a challenge compared to a lot of other upland species, for sure.
So when you tried it for the first time, why did you try it? And how did it go?
Well, that's kind of a long story. I grew up in Missouri. My family farms and ranches there, and I grew up hunting white-tailed deer and turkey. Got a degree in wildlife biology. Worked briefly as a wildlife biologist, mostly on bobwhite quail. Decided to switch careers and went into the medical field and moved to Colorado, and did what a lot of people did here and did a lot of big game hunting, a lot of outdoor adventure stuff, and later kind of fell into to bird hunting and started off with dusky grouse. They're very, very common here, and then pheasants. And I got to looking at the Colorado small game book, and there were 10 different species of upland birds listed in there, some of which I'd never even heard of. Mountain sharptail. I don't think I knew there were white-tailed ptarmigan in Colorado. I knew there were some in Alaska. And I'm looking through all these, and I thought, man, it would be fantastic to try to go harvest all 10 of these species. And so that was how it was just one of the 10. And that was how I decided, hey, I want to go try to chase this bird. And so, it was about halfway through my quest to get them all when I decided to do that. And that's when I started looking up information on how to do them and found out there wasn't a whole lot of information on how to hunt them.
Right. Did you get one the first time?
I did. I just used some of the information I found on their habitat, did some e-scouting, picked a mountain that had an area that had a low moist area that looked green on the satellite photography, but was above tree line. Hiked probably 3 miles. It's probably 3,000 vertical feet of elevation gain with my old chocolate lab gunner that I had at the time. And we got our butts kicked. It was a bushwhack. There was no trail. It was exceedingly hard. And right as we were climbing out of tree line, I mean, we hadn't even gotten to the area where the birds could potentially be. I wasn't feeling very confident. We stopped and we're winded and I'm wore out and we haven't started hunting yet. And a white feather floated in front of me on the breeze when I was standing at tree line.
Meant to be.
Yeah, and we were both energized. We took off and Gunner actually found a covey of, I don't know, maybe 15 ptarmigan within 20 minutes and shot my limit on that first time and came down and actually got a big male dusky grouse on the way down as a bonus and had a really awesome hunt. That one actually sticks out of my memory quite a bit. So,
Well, I feel like I would have given anything to have seen that. What was it like with Gunner being a flushing dog? And did he stay close enough? Because ptarmigan are a bird that the hardest part about the hunt is putting yourself in position to get close enough to them. But once you're close enough to them, it's not like this. It's a bird that's wily as all get out, right?
no, once you find them, they're not super cagey like chukar or pheasant can be. The difficulty is simply getting to where they live and then locating them. Once you locate them, they're usually not terribly difficult to harvest. Yeah, Gunner. When I initially got him as a puppy, he was just going to be my outdoor adventure buddy, and I didn't even get him from a hunting kennel. He was just going to be a house dog. And he started flushing dusky grouse when we were up elk hunting, and he seemed to be really interested in it. And that got me interested in it, and I actually shot several dusky grouse over him. And I really just won the dog lottery with him. He had a great nose, great prey drive. All I had to do was teach him to stay close, which was not hard to do because he was a very eager to please dog, and he would just cast in front of me, 20 yards. He'd stay pretty close, and so I didn't have a lot of trouble with the birds coming up out of range or anything like that. And I enjoyed a lot of years of hunting with him. I've since switched to German Shorthair pointers. I hunt behind pointers now, but that was my first upland hunting dog. So,
Well, your GSPs are just a real treat. River is just like the biggest sweetheart. If you could drop just the most beautiful, perfect little hunting dog, I think that's your GSP River. And then your big guy, Cooper. I don't know. They just make a cool team up there. I mean, to watch a dog hunt on those mountain peaks like we were on and hiking, a bird in hand, honestly, is, I mean, it sounds cliche. It was just a bonus, but just to watch them, way, way up there. So I get why you do it. I get why it's a bucket list bird, and it was obviously a bucket list bird for me, and something that we've never even tried to film before. And I understand why few people try to do it now. The elevation is real. Like, that is a big, big deal when you get up to that thin air up there. What kind of precautions or how would you tell somebody or explain to somebody what they should do to get themselves ready for such a hunt?
It's a lot of cardiovascular. It's lungs and legs. That's what's hard in the high country. The wind or the lack of oxygen can really take it out of some people. Some people seem to handle it pretty well. You and Cowboy Troy were troopers. You guys did great up there. So nobody had any real problems. So that was good. But it's difficult. I mean, it's difficult for me, and I've been doing it for years. And you just have to be in good shape. If you have to be honest with yourself. If you're not in the most fantastic shape, you're probably not going to have a good time on that hunt because you're going to get sick, or you're just not going to be able to cover the ground and that you're going to need to do to find the birds. And so it's just very, very, very thin air, and everything is extremely steep. And so it can be difficult to get up there.
Yeah. I would say slow and steady. That was just something that I learned, just to pace ourselves and not to go too fast. We would go 50 yards, 100 yards, depending on the slope. And then we'd just take a break, drink a lot of water, as always. I had a lot of snack type things, fruits we brought with us. I know Jim, he was drinking He had Gatorade pouches to put in his water just to make sure he had some electrolytes as well. But I guess I wouldn't say that I went through an extreme training regimen and I was able to make it work and keep up with you for the most part. Not always, but for the most part, I felt like I would have been in position had a dog, when they went on point, I was there, every time I got there right away. So I wouldn't want to scare somebody away from trying it, right?
No, but you're in good shape, and I think the average person can definitely come and do it. You just wouldn't want to do it if you were out of shape. I think the average person could do it. You might not be able to cover as much ground, but you could absolutely make it happen if you're interested in doing it for sure.
So there are 54 mountain peaks in Colorado that top out over 14,000 feet. They call them the Teeners, and typically you're looking at like around 12,000 feet for elevation where the trees stop growing. Is that accurate?
Yeah, about 11.5 that you tend to start
11.5.
The trees start to thin out and the conditions just becomes too harsh for anything other than those really short alpine tundra plants to grow.
So I would imagine you have a lifetime of mountain peaks yet to climb, because we barely scratched the surface on the ones that we chose to hunt, and yet the state is full of places, right?
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day, just looking at the map and the amount of land we have accessible here, public land above tree line, which is basically all of it is public for the most part. And I don't think you could cover it all in a lifetime.
Yeah. So the birds exist there. The public land is available, and yet it's just because of the extreme nature of the bird that probably scares people away. Although they're willing to hike for a goat or for elk.
Yeah, I would consider it. People ask me what it's close to, and mountain goat hunting is probably the most similar. They live in the same altitude, same terrain, and I usually see goats when I ptarmigan hunt. I don't think we saw any, but we had snow on the ground, which makes the goats not nearly as easy to spot as they usually are.
Well, in 3 days, Cowboy Troy, our cameraman, who we nicknamed Cowboy Troy, he checked his phone and we added it up. Above 12,000 feet in elevation, we hiked 27 miles and climbed over 800 flights of stairs. And I guess for that, I give us a pat on the back, because my goodness, we tried. But the mountains are so vast. And I shared a couple of photos on our Flush Facebook page or Instagram pages, and just to kind of give an idea of what we're hunting. I'm excited to share the journey and the adventure, because we had a lot of literally ups and downs to this hunt. But it is something that I'll absolutely never, ever, ever forget. And I would tell people, if you're thinking about it, do it. There are, this time of the year, it seems like, VRBOs, we found a VRBO for $190 a night for all of us to stay. The hunting license for small game is under $100 in Colorado. It's doable. It's not something to be afraid about. However, I would say this: your truck is definitely mountain ready. What kind of a rig would you recommend somebody take or not take to try to go up those old mining roads?
The really large vehicles are difficult. I have a Tacoma, 6-inch lifts and 35s, and it gets around pretty good on those old mounting roads. There's a very, very tight switchbacks and very narrow roads, and so you definitely need a high ground clearance vehicle, and not a really large one. Could be a little bit difficult to get around up there with. If you're in good shape, there's a lot of places though that, if you're willing to hike further to get there, you don't have to drive as high. And there's actually a lot more areas that if you're able to hike a long ways, or if you're willing to backpack in and camp for a few days, which is a really fun way to hunt them. I've done that before. That's another way you could approach it, and you wouldn't have to worry about some of those really high alpine roads that we were dealing with.
Besides a bird dog, a shotgun, and a good pair of boots, the Onyx Hunt app is one of the most valuable hunting tools that I take into the field every single day. I've been talking about the Onyx Hunt app since we started producing this podcast, and that's simply because I use it on every hunt. Their app tells me everything that I need to know about the lands that I want to hunt and the lands that we can all legally hunt together. If you've used it yourself, then you know that the Onyx Hunt app shows your location on planet Earth and clearly lays out the land boundaries. It also tells you information about the type of property that you're on, like state land or the block management lands that we hunted last week in Montana. It's ideal for scouting before the hunt and during a hunt to help put together patterns. The app also has new features this year that show you the kind of crops that are in fields, which obviously is a big deal for us upland bird hunters. If you hunt grouse in the Northwoods, there's a timber cut layer to help you find ideal habitat. If you're planning to hunt North Dakota this year like me, then there's a very important layer that has just been added to the app. For the first time, landowners in North Dakota can post their property electronically. Onyx has you covered to make sure you don't cross the line on property that has been posted electronically. Onyx maps can be used in areas without cell coverage too. From the palm of your hand, Onyx maps always help you to know where you stand. For generations, bird hunters have hit the fields carrying some form of a vest or game pouch on their backs. Sometimes the vests rip, tear, and fall apart. Other times they're downright uncomfortable. That's why Chief Upland designed a vest that's durable, comfortable, and fits your needs. Their new Upland vest is fully customizable to fit the size and shape of all hunters. Plus, you can decide where you want to attach your shell pouches and accessories. Birds can be front-loaded into the game pouch and they fit nicely in the back without sagging. That's a big deal because the weight disbursement on your back and shoulders won't tire you out even with a full pouch of birds. The vest itself is extremely lightweight, weighing only 2.56 pounds. The material is built out of Cordura fabric, which is the same waterproof fabric used in tactical military gear. You can confidently hunt with a Chief Upland vest in some of the world's toughest environments. Order your Chief Upland vest now to make sure that you're ready for opening day. Push further and hunt longer with the game-changing vest from Chief Upland, built for your pursuit.
Hey, upland hunters. If you're looking for a place to chase roosters this fall, you need to check out Huron, South Dakota. Here's why. The access to public hunting land is awesome. They have plenty of pet-friendly hotels for the hardest-working member of your hunting group. In addition, Huron is hosting a couple great events this hunting season, the first weekend of November. The Ringneck Festival, a 6-man competitive hunt which draws hunters from all over the country, and the Bird Dog Challenge. It's the opportunity you and your dog have been waiting for, complete with food, prizes, camaraderie, and so much more. The South Dakota pheasant season opens October 16th, so plan your hunting trip to Huron, South Dakota today. Check out the website and learn more at HuronSD.com.
The wild is calling. Answer your thirst for adventure with Grain Belt Premium Beer. Bring the Grain Belt to the outdoors with their limited edition premium hunting season pack. It's available anywhere you can find premium 12-pack cans of Grain Belt.
One thing that happened that, I think is the paramount is obviously the weather, but we went from a blizzard to the sun came flying out and then a thunderstorm right after it. And you and Jim, obviously, I knew that it was a serious deal being at that height to really be careful and get out of there. But what do you recommend people do when they're preparing to go up into a mountain, that elevation, and specifically when it comes to those thunderstorms?
Because of the elevation, you never know. I've been snowed on in August up there. It usually doesn't stick. The snow we ran into stuck, which kind of caused a lot of our problems. But, I've been snowed on in August. You got to go, and, I've got, you can get sunburned. You can get hot. It can be dry, or it can be snowing or raining. And so you kind of have to be prepared for any type of weather, and it changes pretty rapidly, builds up pretty quickly. And you can't see it coming a lot of times, depending on what side of the mountain you're on. So it can really sneak up on you. So you have to be ready for that. And the UV light is terrible too. You have to be very careful. It can be cold and snowy, and you can get sunburned. So pretty readily up there. People that ski a lot kind of know that. But that's you just kind of be prepared for everything. And the other thing I had to learn when I moved out is how dangerous lightning is up there. Being at the high altitude and being so exposed, it's a much greater risk than it is in most places. And so if you hear thunder, you see lightning, you need to get off those peaks. And we had to leave because of that, and we had to leave because of the snow was making the roads too treacherous to descend. So you can definitely get into some weather related issues. So that's the main thing that you have to be prepared for up there. And lack of communication can be tough. If you have inReach or something like that, that's fantastic, because a lot of times you don't have a good way to talk to anybody if something bad did happen.
Yeah, I would say too, something that stuck in my mind was a first aid kit. You know, constantly putting your body into harm's way on those treacherous rocks. You know, if somebody would twist an ankle, how are you going to get out? What do to be prepared. Of all places, you don't want to just go up. You can do it on your own, but you also want to be smart about it, I think is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair.
Yeah. So we dealt with the blizzard. We made adjustments. And that's one of the cool things about, at least in my opinion, one of the great things about upland bird hunting is that you can move. You're not stuck to this one spot. You can go. And there are 10 species of upland birds in Colorado. So we decided to make a change, and we went after duskies, which is an interesting bird because you explained to me that most people would think that as winter sets in, they're going to migrate down the mountain. But where do those birds go?
Duskies, they do a reverse migration. They come to the lower tree line down to the meadows and sage flats below the mountain slopes to raise their broods in the summer, where the young, like most grouse, can feed on a lot of insects and stuff. And then as frost or snow kills off the bugs, they'll move up the mountainside and start feeding on berries, currants and huckleberries and that type of stuff. And then as the berries are gone or freeze off, they'll move up further and look for areas that are still moist to feed on small green plants. And then ultimately they end up at the very top of the mountain when the snow is thick on the ground, and they'll pick a fir tree or a pine tree, and they'll spend the entire winter in that tree just eating pine needles until spring comes around again. And so they migrate from low elevation to high elevation as winter kicks in and spend the winter up in the harshest areas, which is kind of a interesting adaptation, I think, for utilizing their resources up there. Kind of an interesting bird, I think.
Are they the most widespread of your upland bird species?
Yeah, here in Colorado, we have 13 or 14 upland species, depending on how you slice them and dice them. And 10 of them we have seasons on. And of those 10, I would say only dusky grouse and white-tailed ptarmigan are a destination bird for Colorado. You'd be better off chasing the other ones that are available somewhere else. But we probably have more dusky grouse than anywhere else. But they do live in very big country, so they're not always necessarily easy to find. But we do have a lot of dusky grouse here.
When you said they're not destination birds, come on, you did the Colorado. You've bagged one of every single one of those birds, did you not?
I have.
And did you feel like that was a great accomplishment?
I was very proud of that, actually.
How long did it take?
I think I did that in 2 years when I decided to do it. You could do it in a season if you really wanted to, but some of the seasons here, like the season on sage grouse, is only a couple days long. So if you were to have a little bad luck, that could cause a problem with that. But I did it over 2 seasons. So
you mean like guarantee 100% kind of luck when you show up to a spot?
100%. I don't think I'm ever going to say that again after how this trip turned out. I'm going to be like, I'm feeling good. That's the best I'm going to.
If somebody ever says 100%, I'm getting back in the truck and we're leaving.
I was just trying to be optimistic, and it didn't work out.
So let's go through the list of the birds that you can hunt out there. So obviously ptarmigan, dusky, grouse.
Yeah, we have 5 species of grouse. So kind of high to low, we have the white-tailed ptarmigan. We have dusky grouse, which a lot of people know as blue grouse, but they split those into blue grouse and sooty grouse several years back. And so some people know them as blues. And then we have mountain sharptails, which at least that's what Colorado Parks and Wildlife call them, but they're the same thing as Columbian sharptails. So that's a subspecies of sharptail that you can hunt. We have sage grouse, and then we have greater prairie chickens. So those are the 5 species of grouse. We also have Gunnison sage grouse, lesser prairie chickens, and common sharptail, but there's no season on those. And then we have 3 species of quail. We have bob white up in the northeast corner near Nebraska and Kansas. We have scale quail down on the southeast near New Mexico. And then out on the western slope bordering Utah, we have gamble quail in the valley bottoms. And so that's the grouse and quail species. And then we also have pheasants, and the western slope also has wild chuckers. So those are the 10 species that you can pursue in Colorado.
My goodness. So if you have a free day, which one do you go for? If you're not taking anybody with.
It depends on the weather, Travis.
Yeah. Smart man. Yes.
It truly does. A lot of times I don't decide what I'm going to hunt. I just say, we're going to go hunting this week. And then, I look at the weather forecast. I look at conditions, and that a lot of times will make my mind up for me. And then which seasons open. Some of them have short seasons. And so that can make a difference as well.
So this is the first week of October, first full week of October, but today is the first day that you have not been hunting since the season opened. What have you been after?
The first week of the season, we kind of have a group of my friends here. We do a grouse camp in a mountain park in North Colorado, and we chase Columbian sharptails or mountain sharptails. That's our main focus. That season's only open for 2 weeks, and we'll sometimes harvest dove and snipe and blue grouse out of the same area. So it's kind of a combo hunt. But the Columbian sharptails were very good this year, and we had a wonderful opening week hunting sharptails, which was great. And then the following week, I went up into the Flat Tops Wilderness area pursuing dusky grouse, and had a very good dusky grouse opener as well. My older dog Cooper, I call him Super Cooper sometimes because he's special, but he had a very good day, and we put out 21 duskies on our first morning, so that was a good hunt. And then the third week, I decided to go after sage grouse here in Colorado, and I decided to hunt a very obscure area where the numbers are low, and I knew that would be a difficult hunt. And I got into a lot of sign, but we never did get birds up, but that wasn't surprising. And then I ran up to western Nebraska and hunted common sharptail and prairie chickens for a couple days. That area was very dry. Bird numbers seemed to be down pretty heavily there, but I did harvest both prairie chickens and sharptails. So my dad came out for that. He's been wanting to do that for a few years, and so we had a good time on that hunt. And then my next hunt was when you came into town pursuing ptarmigan, and we know how that turned out, unfortunately.
Yeah. 27 miles, 800 flights of stairs,
Oh, yeah.
3 blizzards back to back to back. But honestly, one of the coolest adventures that
it's like a postcard everywhere you go.
Yeah.
When
Even
I'm up
today.
when I'm up there by myself, I don't worry. I don't get too concerned whether I harvest anything or not because it's so beautiful. It's a little tougher when someone comes in to hunt with me. I feel a little responsible for finding some, but
Well, you kept us alive. That was all I could. That's all I could ask for. Going up those logging roads, my goodness, or mining roads.
We didn't die, so
we did not die. And yeah, Troy, even today, we were talking about it, just kind of reliving some of those moments. And we were telling other people at the company here about it. And he's like, "Yeah, it didn't matter where I pointed the camera. I just could not take a bad shot anywhere. It's just spectacular." And he's from Colorado, so for him to go back home, it was just, he was in heaven. I was in heaven because, man, life is so short. It just flies by, and the hunting seasons go by. And I get it that I'm doing this for my job and not, I'm going somewhere else in a couple weeks, and it's not realistic for people to just leave and go do that. But I think it is realistic to plan and to try to make some of these really cool experiences happen. I love walking a pheasant field. I love going for sharptails or wherever you live that's close to home for you. But it's pretty cool sometimes to expand a little bit and see what else is out there. In the West, like you just said, you've got 10 species to hunt for. There's 13 or 14 upland bird species total. It's a pretty special opportunity. Since we got our butts kicked, what have you been feeling like? Revenge? Like you want to get back up there on top of the mountain peaks and chase them?
I almost went up this morning.
Really?
Yeah, and I would normally be done, but I was like, I don't think I can end my season on that. We'll see. Maybe I'll get over that, but I have a feeling if the weather allows it, I'll probably try to sneak up for one last ptarmigan hunt before I completely move on to other things. So.
Well, I'll be waiting for the photo to show up on my phone.
I don't know.
I have confidence in you. We were there. We saw. Well, I won't say everything else. I'll let it be. So we came down the mountain multiple times. We drove by this one particular spot in the forest, and you're like, "Oh my gosh,
it looked good."
It looked good for duskies. What are you looking for right now for dusky grouse? Because every time you saw it, you're like, "Oh my goodness, this is dusky," and that's where we found them too.
This time of year they're kind of halfway through that reverse migration I was talking about. So they're mid to high, and they're still typically, if it's available, they're still feeding on berries. They really like the currant, which is like a high mountain gooseberry that grows, and they like huckleberries, and they have to have an area. They prefer areas. They roost in evergreen trees of some sort, be it spruce or pine or fir trees. And we just kept driving past this patch of trees, and there was just berries hanging on all the bushes, and there was huckleberries on the ground, and there was the spruce trees. And I was like, this really just looks like a good little spot for some dusky grouse to be hanging out in. And we drove by it several times, so we had to eventually hunt that spot.
Yeah. And you were spot on with your prediction. And also, I guess, I mean, I'll eat the berries once in a while, different parts of the country, but we were able to eat the berries just like the birds were, and they were delicious. What were those berries that we were eating?
That's a currant. I think it's a high bush currant. It's if people that live in lower elevation, if you're familiar with gooseberries, it looks a lot like those, except they ripen to like a dark red purple, and they're a mild but a sweet berry, and they're usually plentiful when you find the bushes. There's a lot of berries on there, and the duskies like those, and they like snowberries, and they like huckleberries, and those are they're really not a picky. They'll even eat like the ground juniper, the berries off those, which if you've ever eaten those, that tastes like you're drinking gin. But they're not too picky. But those currants are their favorite. They like kind of a mixed area that's kind of open, maybe a third timber and 2/3 open. And if you can find berries in that combo, it's a good bet there'll be duskies in there. So.
Mm-hmm. They have a reputation for being a dumb bird. I think that comes from elk hunters mostly, because they're not up there trying to hunt for them. What makes them a dumb bird, but also a very exciting bird to hunt?
They're not very scared of people, and I think if they see you, they oftentimes just freeze and they don't move, and they'll just let you walk by, and that's kind of their defense mechanism. But if you can see them and they're just sitting there letting you walk by, then it gives people the impression that they're dumb. And then if you do flush them, oftentimes they'll simply flush up into a nearby tree. I think spruce grouse tend to do that same thing. And, people again say, oh, you can just shoot them out of the tree. They're dumb. But, most of their predators are going to be a fox or a coyote or something that, all they have to do is fly 10 foot into a tree and land. And that's a pretty safe place for them. And they probably don't get a lot of human hunting pressure. So from our perspective, they seem dumb, but it works well for them. They're a successful bird. And I also don't think they're quite as dumb with dogs on the ground, probably because I'm guessing because the dogs resemble things that actually chase them around. But I find that they don't just stand there and look at you when there's dogs on them like they do when you're just walking around, maybe bow hunting for elk or something like that. And they're awesome table fare. They rival rough grouse for my vote on best bird for table fare.
And larger than a rough grouse, so you get the pleasure of the harvest, but then back at the house you get not like a turkey, but I mean it's a pretty good sized bird. So a chucker has a reputation. They run up a mountain and fly down. What do the dusky grouse do? Do they, because they can escape?
Yeah, sometimes they'll fly into a tree, but if they don't do that, they fly downhill every time. That's just because they use the mountains. Most of the mountain birds use that to their advantage. They can pitch off a cliff and not have to work as hard to pick up speed, and it can make them somewhat predictable on which way they're going to flush. Doesn't mean they're going to be easy to shoot, but it makes them somewhat predictable.
Yeah, as I'll attest to, and everybody will be able to watch. They are not as easy as you want them to be. But I think, looking back at a few days in your bird country, like I've mentioned a couple times now, if this sounds like an adventure you'd want to do it, right? I think take the opportunity and do it. And if it's not this year yet, there's still next year and something to plan for. How long will you be hunting birds up in the mountains this season?
Up in the mountains, let's say I usually hunt through mid-February, but I usually end my season down in New Mexico, Arizona. But in the mountains, that's probably winding down pretty quickly for me. Sometimes I'll do a late season, like November dusky grouse hunt if the snow's not thick enough to have pushed them all into the trees yet. I enjoy hunting them when there's some snow on the ground. Sometimes I'll take a break in the afternoon from elk or deer hunting if we're up at elk or deer camp and go out and hunt duskies. That's actually how I got started hunting upland birds here. But But for the most part, that's starting to wind down, and I'm going to start moving down into the plain species. And of course, I always look forward to quail opening up, but we still have a little bit of time before all of that. So maybe I'll go out west and look for some chucker here pretty soon. But I agree with you. People should come out and do it if they want. We have endless amounts of public land out here, all of the national forests, the BLM. There's a lot of room to do it, and it's beautiful. You'll have a good time. You come out and you camp or whatever you do, and you're going to have a great time, whether you get into birds or not. And if someone truly is interested in doing it and they want to, reach out and ask me some questions, I'm happy to answer some questions or, offer a little guidance on where to start. So.
Sounds good. We'll I'll put your Instagram page on this podcast description so people can find you. You're good with that?
Oh, I'm fine with that. Yeah.
And last question, what are you most excited for the rest of the season?
I think I'm looking forward to quail opening up. I'm going to try. I enjoy hunting all of the quail, but that I'm kind of looking forward to that. And I was just sitting down trying to plan a trip down to Arizona for Mearns quail the other day. So that'll if I can get that worked out, that's one of my favorite birds to pursue. So.
Well, I can't wait to see the photo of you holding up a ptarmigan on top of a snow-covered mountain out of revenge, and
we'll see.
You can do it. If I can make it up there, I know you can. Once again, I appreciate you taking the time last week to scale the peaks with me and show me just what an amazing place the bird hunting can be up in the mountains. It's wonderful. So I wish you a safe rest of your season, and again, get that ptarmigan for me. That one, if you get it, that's mine.
Travis, you're welcome down anytime. You have to come get that ptarmigan. See, you'll forget in a year. You'll forget how grueling it was, and you'll start to think about it again, and you'll forget, and then you'll want to come back down again.
I'm ready. I just have a motor that I just can't turn off. So truthfully, I'm ready. Part of me wanted to extend my flight and then go after it again without a camera just to accomplish it because it's a personal thing. I just enjoy a challenge like that. And it's also humbling too that we don't always get what we want. I mean, there's so much information out there now. People have so much knowledge that they can find from experts all over the country, and their success is pretty easy to find for most birds, but that is one that you really have to want it and you have to earn it, and it's not a guarantee, and I respect the heck out of that.
Well, you're welcome down anytime. So
Thank you. And also thank you to our sponsors, North Dakota Tourism, Federal Premium Ammunition, Onyx Hunt, Chief Upland, and Huron, South Dakota for helping us to make this show possible. Our episodes are airing right now on the Outdoor Channel. We hope you enjoy them. And next week, we will be giving you a quail forecast from around the country. I'm working out the details on our guest from Quail Forever right now, so come back for that. But the season is alive and well, and it is open across most of the country. There are certain pheasants are opening up in the next few weeks across the Midwest and pheasant country. So it's just an exciting time for all of us that love to watch dogs out in the field. So we appreciate you taking the time to join us today. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Flesh Podcast. I'm Travis Frank, reminding you to take the time to introduce someone new to the field.